Welcome to Reflections, the Wisdom of Edgar Cayce. I'm your host, Julie Stark, and today we're talking with Linda Thunberg. Linda is a transpersonal hypnotherapist and the president and CEO of the National Association of Transpersonal Hypnotherapists. She's a life coach, an ordained minister, and a certified medium. Welcome, Linda. I'm really excited to have you here today.
Hi, Julie. I'm excited to be here today as well.
And part of the A.R.E. family. We're really excited to have you as part of the family as well. I know you have experience in a lot of different things, as I just mentioned, but we're going to focus today on hypnosis. And something you've said that I thought was really important to this conversation is that you stress that it is the ability to empower others to empower themselves. And that's the way you look at hypnosis. Is that correct?
I absolutely do.
Because it's always an inside job, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I believe.
It's all self-healing. It is. I consider myself a facilitator, not necessarily a healer. I don't do anything to anybody. I help facilitate them for self-healing.
Because we always have the answers inside. So you're one that just kind of helping to extract those answers, I imagine.
Absolutely.
You know, I think it's interesting to note that the Cayce origin story is based in hypnosis. I don't know how many people are aware that his first foray into this world in his early 20s was when he was publicly hypnotized, sort of an entertainment value, but he had been suffering for quite some time from laryngitis. And as a salesman, that did not bode well for his career. So he allowed this gentleman to hypnotize him on stage. When he was under hypnosis, his voice came back in full clarity. And then when he would awaken, it would be a mere whisper again. And this went on for quite some time. And he kind of went in and out of these hypnotic states with this person trying to heal this. And it eventually moved him out of the whole salesman arena as a career and introduced him to photography because he didn't have to use his voice. And then someone told him he had the ability to be an auto-hypnotist, that he could sort of do this to himself. And he practiced it so much that he eventually healed himself of laryngitis, and then others started flocking to him to be healed when he would go into these trance-like states. So I think it's pretty powerful to note that this is where it all began, and the rest, as they say, is history. So with that idea, Cayce believed that most hypnosis was self-hypnosis. Can you talk about that a little bit and what that means exactly?
It absolutely is all self-hypnosis. Even if somebody is hypnotizing you, it's because you're allowing that within your inside. You're allowing yourself to be hypnotized. You're going along with the program. You have to be willing to even undertake any kind of hypnosis. And as soon as you're willing and able, we just help you go into an altered state. Cayce was able to go in an altered state by himself. And lots of people can do that. I mean, I do self-hypnosis as well. We do self-hypnosis all the time. It's an altered state. People don't understand that. When we're driving and we're driving for 4 hours and all of a sudden you miss your exit, it's because you're hypnotized. It's because you're not necessarily thinking of the road. You're in an altered state. Not that you can't, still drive, but you're not paying full attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And my understanding is that there are different levels of hypnosis. And I would think that some people might think there's a correlation between maybe meditation and hypnosis. Is that true, or what is the difference, if there is a difference?
There is. I explain the difference between meditation and hypnosis is that most people in meditation are trying to clear their mind. They're trying to just completely clear their mind. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Deep dark space or that light space and just connect, right? And in hypnosis, especially with clinical hypnosis, which is suggestive hypnosis for any kind of habits or addictions or food or any kind of habit that you want to change, it literally is self-hypnosis as well, but it's also putting suggestions into your subconscious mind. So I believe that's the difference between meditation and hypnosis. In meditation, you're trying to clear your mind, and in hypnosis, you're trying to change a habit or put something different into your subconscious programs, right?
So it's a heightened level of focus and concentration. But even with Cayce, and I've done multiple forms of hypnosis. I'm not a hypnotherapist, but I subscribe to the practice 100% and trust my subconscious, right? Which you were alluding to is that you really have to be open to it and trust yourself. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, I would imagine, right?
Absolutely.
But even he had people ask him questions under the trance, right? So those questions were delivered, which as a hypnotherapist, that's your job, right? So talk about that a little bit in that whole process of hypnosis. Like for someone who's never done it, like they have all these ideas that perhaps you're going to make them quack like a duck or something. I don't mean to minimalize anybody's knowledge of the subject, but explain how you get someone to go into that relaxed state.
Well, first of all, there are two different kinds of hypnosis. There's, as you mentioned before, and I've done stage hypnosis, been a, shall we say, victim of stage hypnosis before, as Cayce. So I have done stage hypnosis. We do suggestive or regression hypnosis, which is basically solving issues for people, helping them solve their own issues, basically. In a clinical or suggestive therapy, we're literally interviewing you, asking you what you'd like to change, in your, let's say you want to stop smoking or weight loss. Those are probably the two famous ones. Hypnobirthing is back to do hypnosis for birth around in the 60s, and now it's come back full flame again. So it's really nothing new. Hypnosis has been around for thousands and thousands of years. But so you have suggestive hypnosis, clinical hypnosis, where we're just taking your suggestions of, I always teach it in class. I'll go, what are you doing now? And what do you want to do? And hypnosis is the bridge to help you do that. And so we interview you to find out what your habits are now, what are you doing now, and what do you want to do? We feed your subconscious mind when you're in that really relaxed, altered state, those suggestions that you come up with. And it works like, I also describe it like when you're 16 years old and you're learning how to drive, and you have to know where to put the key in and which foot to put on the brake and which foot to put on your gas, and you're very conscious of it. That's how we learn things. Once we learn them, it's like that program goes into our subconscious mind. And now as 30, 40, 50, 60, however old you are, you don't think about now we don't even need keys, but we don't think about where does the key go or what buttons do we need to push or where does my foot need to be. We just get in and we go, right?
Right.
And it's because those patterns are created and they are programs 24 hours a day that help us do things, that help us do really good things in our lives. And they can also help us repeat patterns that perhaps we don't want in our lives, right? And so we help you to create new patterns, basically. The other kind of hypnosis is regression hypnosis. That's if people request that, usually if they have a block, if they have a really deep-seated pattern that they know is there usually. I've done so many weight loss programs, I've done this, I've done that, and I hit this plateau and I can't go any further. Sometimes it's because there's something in a deeper layer, perhaps in a childhood, in a even young adulthood, childhood, infancy, womb. We do some things in utero that, people don't understand that babies really can hear you and everything that's going on around you. And seriously, people have picked up patterns and blocks in their mother's uterus. And feelings about themselves in their mother's uterus. And then you can also, if you believe in them, past lives, and we can go down the rabbit hole of multidimensional lives and all of that. So it just depends on what the client is looking for and really where they go in regression. But it can, my mentor, Dr. Chips, used to say, regression can change patterns instantaneously. And I believe that's because once you look at it and get a different perspective of it, and change those emotions of it, it changes everything and it's done. So it's pretty fascinating, actually.
So I see things visually in my hypnotherapy sessions, and you say that some people don't necessarily see things, but they feel things or hear things. I didn't realize that there were different experiences.
Yes, just like, there's some visual learners and some auditorial learners. And it doesn't mean that what you do consciously in your learning that you're going to do in a hypnosis in that altered state. But you may see it like a movie picture. You may see it just in vague outlines or images. Some people see them in black and white. Some people see it in full color. And then other people just literally will say, I'm not seeing anything, or I'm just seeing colors, but I'm hearing things, or I know what's going on, right? They're very kinesthetic. They can feel it. And then there's the knowing. They just know it. So it's fascinating that not everybody does it the same way.
And it's important to trust, right? When you're in that state, it's important to trust whatever it is you're seeing, feeling, hearing, because that's where the answers lie, right? Because we've gotten the ego mind out of the way and made room for this vast unseen world, right? To come forth and feed us, to heal in whatever way we've determined. I think it's really interesting. Edgar Cayce always felt that hypnosis was valuable for transformational healing. You mentioned it's been in existence for thousands of years. I think at one point it was called mesmerism, like in the 1700s, and then during the Civil War, they used it for pain control. But I think it's also interesting that we note that in the late 1950s, the American Medical Association endorsed it as a therapeutic tool for healing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And now more and more, it's in the Mayo Clinic, it's in the Cleveland Clinic. Right. They're having alternative healing centers within the hospitals now, and they're using it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because it really is a vital source. So I know that you touched on this a little bit, but I know that you work, there are different categories of hypnotherapy. You touched on that a little bit before, but let's dive a little bit deeper into some of these things, because there are layers, and I think it's interesting for people to note them. We've talked about how you can use it for smoking cessation or weight loss, but in healing trauma, you mentioned going back to, I think you call it childhood chakra healing.
I do.
Explain what that is. I think it's fascinating.
It's pretty much my main modality with clients, if they request it, but it is childhood chakra regression. So I believe that a lot of things have been picked up in our childhood, no matter if we were a year old or 10 years old or 12 years old. One of these days, my book will come out about it, but it doesn't have to be even horrible trauma and abuse. It can be that one line that somebody said to us when we were 6 years old, that, I had one client that her sister always told her that she would always be behind her because she was older than her. And she never knew that, but it affected her whole entire life. We don't realize that the little things that maybe it was just her sensitivity that day, maybe it was, how it was said to her, but she took it in, and I believe you take them into your chakras, or it shatters your chakras. And so even though we work on a lot of things all of our lives, mostly when it comes down to it, it is a feeling of unworthiness somewhere, right? Mm. And I believe that it shatters our chakras, it shatters our energy. So we all know chakra people that can heal and balance your chakras, and they might use a pendulum or something, and they do, and then you feel great for a few hours, and then it kind of goes back to where it was maybe in a day or a week or a month, right? And I believe that's because our energy is not whole and together. It's like parts therapy almost. Mm-hmm. And so I go in, put them in regression. We look at some of those, whatever pops up, whatever the most important thing is for them to notice at that time, like you were saying before. And then we look at the emotions, we look at that perspective of that. And as an adult now, how can you perceive that any differently? We go in and literally pick up the pieces of their energy with their inner child and then blend the inner child into the adult self. And it creates wholeness. I can't explain it any other way. It creates wholeness.
No, I absolutely believe you and understand that, because these wounds, whether someone stole your grape lollipop when you were little, whatever it is that wounds you, and there's some really horrific wounding that goes on in childhood, but to be able to access that and realize potentially that wounding has informed every decision that you've made in your life, no matter what age you can see the node. It's almost like taking a bullet and then the shrapnel, right? And it's created the person that you are. So in order to get back to that wounding, which can be traumatic, and it's nice to have someone there to guide you and who's a professional like you to do those things, to access it. I used EMDR to get back to that. So it's kind of in that same vein of just accessing a deeper knowing, right? I think that could be extraordinarily powerful. So another type of hypnotherapy, which we've discussed a little bit, is past life regression. So if you're taking someone back to the childhood wound and healing that trauma, in the same vein, it's possible that we've had multiple lives before us, this one, and we've been wounded in those as well, or we have certain characteristics. And so you're able to take someone back and experience those. Explain that a little bit.
Exactly. Well, we are multidimensional beings, so we can bring things forward from any past lives that we've had. And I had one client that came to me, and she was probably in her 70s. And she had back problems all of her life that nobody could figure them out. I put her in a regression, and she actually went in. She was very metaphysical. She did lots of meditation, lots of hypnosis. She went into 3 different past lives in one session. And every one of them, she had fallen over a cliff with her back and in a car accident and just different past lives. Well, once again, you leave those residues, you look at it, you change your perspective of that. And you literally leave those residues in those lives, bring it forward with the healing, and it creates change. Physically, mentally, emotionally, it creates change.
Yes, I can absolutely attest to that. And having done past life regression, close to a dozen times, the last 2 or 3 times that I did it, I went back to the same life and had a different perspective of that life based on whatever challenge I was in this life. That blew my mind, because I was like, wow, there are a lot of, and it happened to be the last life that I lived. So it was really powerful to see how many different aspects of that life were informing this life. I think there is a lot of power in the ability to do that. And I'm a believer in reincarnation. I know that some people aren't, but I've heard this explained before, that whether it's reincarnation or cellular memory, right? Because that's another aspect of where we're getting these memories from. To me, it makes absolutely no difference which it is, because both of them are informing who I am today. Exactly. And whatever it is I'm going back and remembering is giving me fuel to move forward in this life in a more positive way.
Absolutely, to transform. And even if it is a metaphor, let's just say, some people will say, well, it was just my imagination, it's just a metaphor. But those metaphors are teaching you something and healing things within you.
Well, Cayce believed that the imagination was the bridge to the soul, right? So that was an important part, and that goes back to sort of trusting. If you see the colors or you hear the sounds, or you visually see a story or a movie unfold before your eyes, that's the imagination is your connection. Absolutely. To those psychic abilities. So as we can regress in hypnotherapy, we can also progress, right? So is that a little bit like, accessing some sort of psychic ability to see what your future is?
No, I describe it more like, just like you have a timeline, if we consider it a timeline, multidimensional selves, that we can travel back to past lives in our younger lives, right? We can travel forward to where we may be in 5 years or 10 years. And you literally, people see themselves doing whatever they're doing. And once you see the emotions of that, once you can touch the emotions, whether it's in regression or progression, it seems to have much more motion to it to manifest what we want going forward, to manifest
Right.
the healing that needs to occur. It's fascinating to do progression. And I actually include a snippet of progression with every clinical session that I do, even if you're coming for weight loss or just anxiety or whatever else. Let's see yourself, take your time now and just see yourself. As I count to 3, move yourself into the future and see yourself as a very calm and happy person. And once they can literally visualize that and feel that, the energy goes forward. When our emotions have to be stronger going forward than they are right now, right? So if you change your emotions to go stronger, to go, wow, I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I feel great, your whole energy is going to go towards that, correct? And that's what progression can do for you.
And again, it's putting the power back into your lap, right? Empowering others to empower themselves. So wherever you are in the moment, I would imagine that's what you will progress, because life is built on this moment. I don't know, maybe I'm getting a little off base with that, but I was just having that thought of, if you put me under hypnosis and I did a progression therapy today at this moment, and I did another one a week from now or a month from now or an hour from now, it might be ever so slightly different, right?
Absolutely, because you might be seeing a different perspective of it.
Right.
A different time of it. Yeah, absolutely.
I just love the whole idea that it is the empowerment of the person that this really accesses. So that you also you have something called life between lives, and my understanding of that is sort of a culmination of all the things we just discussed: the womb, the childhood, the womb, and the regression. Is that an accurate?
I call it the whole life cycle.
Yeah.
So we start at this current moment and move backwards into, as you were saying, your childhood. What happened there? What happened in utero? Where did you go to? Go to a past life, and then where did you go to when you died? And you mentioned that you went to your most recent past life. That's usually where people will land if they do a life between lives. So they would go into their most recent past life, experience what they experienced there, heal whatever they need to heal there. And then where did you go after you died there? Because in regression, you're going to die. And not everybody dies a traumatic death. Some people do, some people don't.
Right.
But then it's all about, where did you go after that? And people meet their soul groups, they meet their people, much like, my mentor, Dr. Chips, and Dr. Michael Newton worked together at one point and noticed that there were certain patterns that people would do. And you can see your soul group, you can see your guides, you can experience your counsel or whatever your spiritual belief is. You can experience that. And then you can go into pre-birth planning of this life and ask so many fascinating questions about, why did I choose who I am? Why did I choose my parents? Did they pick me? Did I pick them? Was it karmic? You can just find out so much information. The first time I had a life between lives session done on me, I had 3 pages of questions that I wanted answered in my session. Didn't get to all of them, got to very much a lot of them. It's our longest session that we do. We can actually have people in hypnosis for 4 or 5 hours. You can literally get up and go to the restroom or the bathroom and then come back and go right back into hypnosis. We have techniques that do that. It's just a fascinating session.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that's important to say that if you're talking about this life between lives, that takes some time, right? None of this is quick. I mean, you can move through stories pretty quickly, but it takes some energy from you to do that, and from you, the hypnotherapist who's escorting the person through these experiences. The first past life regression I ever did was a life that was long, long, long ago, but looks nothing like where I am today. So the idea of where did I go in between, I've never done that, but I think that would be a fascinating exercise for sure.
Absolutely fascinating. And speaking of regression and just different things, depending on where your subconscious is or where your consciousness is, people don't always reincarnate into humans, do they? We have had my first regression that I did on somebody in a class. They had talons. They were they were not a human being.
Really?
And is that possible? Have we all evolved? Whatever you might believe, but what do you do with that as a hypnotist? I had to ask her questions pertaining to that. How large of a bird are you? And it was very, very relevant to her current lifetime, because she flew off this ledge, and it was all about her stepping out and coming out into this lifetime that she needed to heal. So it was fascinating. But Dolores Cannon used to say, in her teachings, what will you do if somebody comes back and they just say, I'm a stone, I'm a rock, and
Well,
I'm not a rock, but I have had some animals, but why not?
Well, again, back to the imagination and the fact that whatever it is that you're getting, trust it, because there's a message buried in it. And that's what your subconscious mind is trying to do.
Exactly.
Cayce believed that there are only two sources of information. One was the subconscious mind, and the other was the Akashic records, or the book of life, where all things are written for all people. So whatever you're getting, just trust, like you said, this person needed to take a leap, or, maybe somebody as a stone needs to just be a little stronger and unmovable in life or whatnot. But the message is always buried in there.
Absolutely. And in Life Between Lives, you can, as transpersonal hypnotherapists, of course, to me, that means we're spiritual hypnotherapists. We really love it when our clients, if they have the spiritual beliefs, that they can go to the Akashic records in a Life Between Lives. You could just find out so much information, meet your guides, meet your counsel, I have had people that say that they meet God itself, and just get messages from that. It's fascinating. And it's very, very healing.
Well, the state of consciousness, not to dive too deeply into this, but the dream state is a similar state of mind that you go into, because the ego mind has moved away, right? And you're in your imagination, your right brain, instead of your left brain analytical mind that rules most of our days, right? Where we're in control of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You get into different stages of consciousness, from alpha to theta, and when you're in sleep, you're actually in an altered state of consciousness.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the dream world. I get so much information there. But as I mentioned before, I do believe in the power of the subconscious. So you also have something that you call quantum healing technique, I believe. Speak to that a little bit, because that's more to do with, as opposed to the mind and the spirit, the body, in healing the body, correct?
Actually, yes and no. It is a Dolores Cannon technique that you literally take somebody up and they speak as their higher self for healing. So you can ask questions and they actually come back and speak in third person. So I would be saying, Linda needs to do this to heal, and Linda needs to do that, and she knows she needs to do this. It is literally connecting you up to your higher self, to your spirit, to that part of us that is so metaphysical. And we have all the answers. We just do, and bring it back down.
Now, would you consider that what Cayce would do when he would get into these trance-like states? And he'd always say the body, he'd use like a third person narrative all the time, whether he's speaking about himself or someone else. So same type of thing, because a lot of his stuff was about healing and using holistic therapies to heal.
Right, he was reaching the superconscious where all answers are, right, for everyone. And so he was able to go up and get those records, get that and their essence, and know what they need to heal.
Is there anything about, do people come to you reticent, number one, right? Like, and how do you get through that? And then is there anything that people need to know about hypnosis that would open them up to the possibility of using this modality for healing?
That it's not scary, and that it's not stage hypnosis, that they are in control every step of the way, that no hypnotherapist, even stage hypnotherapists, if you've noticed, they will ask for volunteers, so they get people that are willing, and then they whittle it down until they get to 2 or 3 or 1 person, right? And that's because that person is much more susceptible, willing, and open to be the class clown, be the person that they need to be. So much like that. But if that person didn't agree with whatever that stage hypnotist was telling them, they would come out of trance. They would absolutely come out of trance. If it's anything against your ethics or morals or will, you're going to come out of it, because, as you said, that part of your conscious mind is still here just enough, right?
Right.
Always watching.
Right, always watching and protecting you, right? Like, making you aware. And I think that's really important for people to know, is that to not be afraid of it, that you still have a level of awareness. And I would highly recommend it as a form of therapy for any type of the many things that we just talked about today. And I know that people are going to want more information about how to access this, how to maybe speak to you more. Can you tell people how they can find you, what you have upcoming? I know you have a lot of things going on, so tell us a little bit about that.
I do teach and certify people in hypnosis and all of those different techniques that we talked about, except for the quantum healing hypnosis. Like I said, that's a Dolores Cannon thing. But for our transpersonal hypnotherapy, I teach everything from the certified hypnotist to our master's class, which is all regression, to then the Life Between Lives class as well. And I'm also teaching my childhood chakra regression class here in July, coming up in a few weeks. And then I have an A.R.E class in conjunction with the A.R.E. We are teaching the certified hypnotherapy course in September, from September 18th to the 23rd. And so I run NATH, I teach hypnosis, but then I also have I'll never say never, but I have my private hypnosis organization as well, company as well, which is Transpersonal Power, transpersonalpower.com. And that's where you can make a private session. I do it virtually, I do it in person. Virtual hypnosis works great. I will be the first one to say, in COVID, I was like, really? But it's nothing more than energy, right? And we're in this energy bubble with your hypnotherapist and your client. And just like Cayce was able to do things from letters that people did 3,000 miles away, and he could still access their records and what they needed, we're finding now that we can do that virtually. So nice. And you can be at home in your own bed, in your own sofa, in your own recliner. And I think people feel much more comfortable that way as well.
Well, let's not dive into the conversation around time and space, because then we would be here for a really long time. So I can see how that would work and work really well.
Yeah,
so
we can't go down that rabbit hole right now.
You are a very busy person. Now, did you, as president and CEO of the National Association, did you start that organization? You clearly have a lot of training going on to certify people.
I did not. My mentor was Dr. Alan Chips. He actually taught at the A.R.E some years ago, and I took over the National Association about 5 years ago.
Wow.
And Dr. Chips had passed away. His wife was running it, but of course her husband has passed, her son had passed, and she called me one day. And yeah, so we did that. And I actually got messages. Yes, I am a certified medium, and I got messages from Alan and actually Edgar Cayce as well, that yes, you're supposed to do this. And so we step up to the plate, right? We shed that light and spread that light of hypnotherapy and just the whole metaphysical healing that people really can do. So it was quite an honor. It really is an honor to run NATH. And I am actually one of, I think it was last year, somebody was saying that there's 4 women-owned hypnosis organizations, either in the United States or maybe even the world, and I'm one of those. So
quite an honor, right?
Exactly. Things are
Yes.
definitely changing out there, and hypnosis is coming back very, very strong. And it's not to downsize regular psychotherapy at all. Talk therapy is wonderful. I can't tell you how many psychologists and psychiatrists refer people to me because I believe that they work hand in hand as well. And there are a lot of psychologists right now that are adding hypnosis to their modalities because you can break through things in that subconscious altered state that sometimes our conscious mind doesn't want us to look at, right?
Yeah. It's like a matter of getting out of our own way. Like sometimes
Exactly.
even in cognitive behavioral therapy, you're sitting there and the barriers are so big or the trauma is so deep that the walls are up, and this kind of allows them to safely fall away so you can get there maybe a little faster or clearer.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And then continue on with your other therapy, and it just kind of helps jumpstart at certain points, or when we get to those plateaus or those brick walls, right?
Right.
It also works really well with other modalities like Reiki, like as you were saying, the tapping and all of that. It really does in conjunction work with, even we have a lot of massage therapists that will come and take hypnosis and add it to their modalities of massage, or meditation gurus will come and even take hypnosis just to have that extra certification. And it is a little bit different than what they do. So it can work with a lot of other modalities as well.
So, Linda, you're going to be at the A.R.E. headquarters in Virginia Beach in September for a hypnotherapy conference that is hosted by the A.R.E. Can you tell us a little bit about what people can expect if they attend this event?
Well, thank you. We teach them how to be a certified hypnotherapist so they can go out and literally open their own business as a hypnotherapist. They can use it with other modalities, however they'd like to. Some people just take it to do self-hypnosis because we have a segment in the program that teaches that as well. We literally take them from understanding the history of hypnosis, how it started, what happened with it over the years, to how does one put somebody in hypnosis? What are the different stages in the flow chart of hypnosis, right? So we talk about the interview extensively. I am a really big person about rapport and interview because they have to trust you too. And then we go into inductions. And what is an induction? That's when we get you into that altered state, into that alpha, into that beta brain waves to just relax you. And then we talk about, is it suggestive therapy? Is it regressive therapy? And then we do awakening procedures. That sounds really, really simple, but it's a 5-day course and it's a very intense course, I tell people. We have a textbook that we do use called Clinical Hypnotherapy, a Transpersonal Approach, which is on the A.R.E. website. It's by my mentor, Dr. Alan Chips. We have an open book exam that you have to, there are requirements. You have to do the open book exam. We suggest you highly read the book too, not just do the testing. And then we go through the whole book. We go through many, many other case studies. We go through experientials where you will become the therapist and have some healing sessions yourself as a client in our class as well. Then we also do we like to, now we've changed it a little, where we do post sessions, we do post class sessions. So there's requirements to, then you go out and find your own clients and you have to submit them so that we know that you're really doing what we would expect and keeping everything ethical, everything by standards and all of that. So it is, people might think that, oh, it's a 5-day class and this will be great. When they get out of it, they go, you weren't kidding. That was really intensive. But it's a good intensive. I like to tell people we eat, sleep, and breathe hypnosis for 5 days.
So you actually come out of it certified.
You do.
And then you have to follow up with practice in order to, I guess, solidify that certification?
Right. You get 30 days to put into your full sessions, and then we will certify you. And once you're certified, depending on your state and what your state requirements are, you can just go open a business as a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist. The one nice thing about the National Association of Transpersonal Hypnotherapists is that we are one of the smaller organizations in the world. We like to call it a family. So you're not alone. We have Facebook groups. We have mentoring within our organization that we don't just leave you, okay, you've taken the course and now you're on your own. You can really network with people. We do virtual conferences 4 times a year. And then we have our large conference in Virginia Beach in November, where they can come and further their education just with different talks and presentations and post certifications and all of that kind of thing. So it's a process.
Terrific. And what are the dates again of the certification conference?
The dates are from September 18th to the 23rd. So
at the A.R.E. headquarters in Virginia Beach. And there's more information on the A.R.E. website as well as your website, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And registration, I will say, is on the A.R.E. website. You can look at information on the NATH website, but we have a link right back to the A.R.E. And we are doing it in person or virtually, so they can actually do the whole course virtually. We do it virtually as in class, not an online class, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And that's good to know because there may be people interested that would not be able to attend. Terrific. Thank you. I look forward to meeting you when you're in Virginia Beach.
I look forward to meeting you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.